Okay, we are getting ready to install the Kawasaki STX 1100 engine. So clean and pretty, got a little dust on it. I had to shorten up my rope because it was too long and I wasn't going to clear. So you only had a certain amount of, with these small come-alongs, you've only got a certain amount of drop that you're going to get. And so I had to do some adjustments. But anyway, one of the things I wanted to make mention of is as you're going in, of course you want to keep everything that's going to get pinched or whatever out of the way as you're going. I've got to back this up, obviously, I'm not lined up. But best practice is to take you some tape and tape up your edges, because I did this, chips pulling it out. It's very hard to pull it out without hitting and nicking your edges. And you can tell an engine's been pulled on a jet ski by those nicks and that sort of thing. But I've got it pretty clean down in the hull. But you want to remember when you're going in, get your starter. On a Yamaha, your starter, you know, you can have your starter like this ready to go. But if your wires are down here, which often they can and will be, get them bolted up as you're going down in. Bolt up your wiring and this hose, which is really hard to reach once it's in the ski setting. As you're going down, here's that hose right here. I'll bring this over and connect that hose before the engine is seated all the way. That way I don't have to have all that fight to try to get in there and get that thing bolted up. That's just a couple of helpful tips. You may not want to have your cover on so you can see your alignment, but I can see how I've got that, and you basically want to have that like that so that they'll mate up. And this one's easy because you've got that big plate, so you can have it forward and just slide it right back into your other PTO coupling and just mate them right up. And it doesn't matter, you know, it doesn't have to be a specific one of these that it mates to. And I've never seen shims on a Kawasaki, just on a Yamaha. So got that. We're going to set it and we're going to mount it up, and we'll do torque specs for the for all the bolts, the motor, engine mount bolts, and the exhaust bolts that are these here. Remembering that this piece has to be staged inside. If it isn't, you're going to have to push your engine over to slip it in, but you want to leave that down in there staged to bolt up to help yourself out a little bit. So here we go. Time to get it in. Okay, got her down, getting ready to set. I hooked up the hose right there that you see. That goes back to your jet pump. Center screen, the back half of it runs to the jet pump. Front half, I could have gone ahead and connected it. It runs down to the front. I should have connected it beforehand, but there it is in the front right there. It connects there. And then you've got a little tube. You can't put this on until you get the bracket set because it runs right through the center of the bracket, the way they designed it. Not a big fan of it, but that's how they did it. And it hooks to that one right there on your exhaust. So then that'll be all of the hose routings. You've got a bracket that goes here for your throttle, and then the bracket that goes here for your oil pump. And they're laying down there in the hull. So I've got to get those up and going. Something I want to make mention of for your air box is your velocity stacks, because I had a guy had a good conversation with a guy that works on these over in Alabama today. Your velocity stacks come up through the bottom here. And you want to make sure they're soft. They will get brittle to where they crumble over time, and then they'll get sucked into your reed valves and they'll jam those reed valves open. If these are cracking or breaking, replace them. They were $7 and change a piece pre-COVID. I don't know what they are now. COVID, everybody uses that as an excuse to raise the price of everything. But make sure these are in good shape. That's basically your gasket that seats onto your carburetor. It uses the bottom of these, and they're not perfectly round, as you can see. They've got a little air gap in them. And it doesn't matter which side you turn that to when you shove it in there. But they just stick in from the bottom. And the extra fat lip that they've got on them serves as a soft surface to mount to the carburetor. And all three of those, and remember, Loctite on your these little bolts here, and those are going to be 78 inch-pounds as well. All of these thin ones, these small bolts like this, seem to have a 78 inch-pound torque on them, and that would go for these two that bolt onto the engine as well. Loctite. Remember your Loctite. Okay, an important step is to prime your oil lines, get them ready for going onto the carburetor. I've used Oetiker clamps to clamp my oil lines all down, all of them, including, this is a clear one as well coming out of the reservoir. I've got Oetiker clamps everywhere. I prefer them much more over tie wraps. Yellow Tygon fuel line. You can see this one is pretty much almost primed. See how the oil is right there? So I'm going to spill a lot of oil out of this one when I go to prime these other two because they're empty. But basically, the easiest way to do this, and you can do it without this hose that I've got on here. You can make your drill hook right up to this, but because your drill has 3 bits that'll grab onto it, it's going to wobble really bad. So you're going to have a bad wobble, and you know you're going to have that issue. Also, you need your throttle to be in the wide open position so that your pump is putting out more oil. Now I don't have the cable hooked up, so I'll have to like wire this back or something. But you want the wide open position, drill running in reverse to prime your lines. If you put your drill in forward, it pushes the oil in the opposite direction. In other words, it isn't pulling the oil out through these lines this way to where it pushes it back that way if your drill is in forward. So you'll never prime them if your drill is running in forward. Get you a piece of hose, or this one's a plastic tube that fits tightly onto your pump, and it's a much smoother operation doing this. Now, I can't really video doing it because I'm going to have to get this back and hold the drill, and I can't hold the camera, but that's how you do it. Much smoother operation getting you some sort of a tube or a piece of rubber hose or something in your drill than trying to clamp the drill onto here. And that's how you prime your oil pump, with your drill running in reverse. This needs to be in wide open throttle position. And this one doesn't have the machining marks like a Yamaha does to tell you where to set everything at stop and then wide open. It doesn't have them. So once again, Yamaha was a little bit better with their engineering, although I think Mikuni makes the pumps for everybody. So there you go. All right, my oil lines are primed. That's why I like using the Tygon line. You can see through it. See, it's yellow. See how you get this greenish look to it once you get that blue oil in there, and you can see where it's coming out. That you put your rag down because you're going to make a mess if you don't, because some lines are shorter and they're going to prime faster. If you've got it with the carb in, you can go ahead and hook a line up to the carb rather than dumping oil into a rag, but you're not really losing that much oil. My lines are primed. They're ready to hook up to the carb. I can go ahead now and bolt my oil pump back to the front of the engine, and it uses the same It's a 5/16 or is it 4.5 or 5 millimeter Allen wrench. It uses the same one that the carbs use. The tool kit that comes with these, most of you are probably going to be missing this. It has one of those wrenches in it so that you can work on stuff out on the lake. I bought a nice tool kit to go on this one. It's never been used, off of eBay. I bought that because I like to have a complete ski with the factory tool kit. It's kind of nice to have. It has a little thing to pull the plugs while you're out on the lake too. But anyway, I can go ahead and put my oil pump on and my bracket, all that stuff, and get ready to go ahead and lower the engine down and start bolting everything back on.